Hello, everybody. This is K-Rail reporting live from Park City, Utah. This is Train for Longevity podcast, episode number 8. I have my great friend, Dr. Mark Testa, on the other side today, and my co-host, Mark Testa. And we're going to be talking some smack about some fun stuff today. We're going to call this show Dietary Deceptions. So please pull up a chair, get yourself comfortable, or plug us into your phone jack in your car and listen to us on Bluetooth as you're driving down the highway. Now, before we get to anything, if you need to find out the latest and greatest information on health and fitness, make sure to go to trainforlongevity.com and check it out. We've got exercise in there. We got blog posts. We've got all this great information on health and fitness and on things to improve your health from top to bottom, from the inside out, from a holistic fashion. Make sure to check out and get yourself some pine pollen superfoods as well. Pine pollen is amazing. It is a superfood, and I highly suggest use it on a daily basis. All right? Great. Now, all that being said, let's get off to the races. I was just talking to Mark behind the scenes, and he told me about something that was very interesting. His daughter is attending a movie, and they're not giving them all-you-can-eat popcorn. No, no, no. The game has changed quite a bit these days, folks. They decided popcorn isn't good enough for kids. All-you-can-eat cereal. That's what his daughter is eating right now as we're doing this podcast. She's sitting in a movie theater with a big bowl of cereal. She can fill that bowl as many times as she wants because it's all you can eat. Something is wrong with all-you-can-eat cereal. Mark, can you elaborate on this a little bit more for us?
Something is so wrong about that. And, in our house, that does not happen. But you can only control what's in your house, right? I mean, I remember the first party she went to, and I was like, don't eat that crap. Anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't doubt. I'm guessing, but somebody's sponsoring this. Big Ag, Big Dairy, Big somebody. I don't know. But nonetheless, starting these kids out with simple refined carbohydrates like that, right, gets their taste buds and their brains wired for this sugary sweet concoction. And starting them at this age is, what's it doing? It's causing childhood obesity, diabetes now in kids, and teens and Americans are just getting fatter and fatter. But it starts at a young age, and you develop these taste buds, and it's just ubiquitous. That kind of food's just everywhere, and I definitely don't support it, and I hate it that she gets involved in that, but you can only control so much in your house.
Yeah, that's true. You have complete control of what goes on in the house, but you have zero control of what happens. Well, not zero, but you got less control of what happens when your daughter goes to a friend's house, when your daughter goes to a birthday party, when your daughter goes to school, when your daughter goes to dance class, and the list goes on and on. But keep in mind, when you're giving kids certain things at the age of like 6 to 10, your daughter's 6, right?
6, yep.
Yeah, okay. You're laying foundations. I mean, kids are very impressionable. And I remember when I was that age, I was super impressionable. And one of the things that stuck with me and resonated, I think I was about 12 years old. I remember of someone telling me the story. I'm not sure if it was my dentist or a dentist or like someone in the family who was going to the dentist. But the story was, if you can stay cavity-free through your teen years until you hit your early 20s, or like relatively low cavities in your teeth, you're going to have strong, healthy teeth the rest of your life, and you'll never have to deal with tooth decay or cavities. It's because of laying a foundation. Have you ever heard anything like that, Mark?
Oh, yeah, right, exactly, right? And oral health is a proxy to all the other health in our body. So, when you have good oral health and you have good, healthy teeth and gums, then everything's healthier. But when carbohydrates and stuff, bacteria just grows in there, and just poor health. Now, interestingly, you got to wonder too, like, how strict are you with your kids? If you always restrict, what their peers are eating, it's my belief, and looking at some of the childlike psychology literature, that they're going to want that and go out of control with it as adults and young adults when they get exposed to it. So I think there's a fine line between letting kids have stuff so they don't crave it, want it, and it's this forbidden thing that they're going to just go for the rest of their life, versus letting them have a little bit of it. I don't really love that whole notion, but I do think there's something to that. But back to your teeth story, I think it's definitely important to have good oral health.
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes when I used to work at Everything Natural in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, and if any of you ever roll through Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, definitely stop at Everything Natural. It's an awesome little health food store there. Cheap little sleazy plug. Anyway, I used to work there part-time. I used to get this massive discount there, which was 3/4 of the reason I worked there. But it had good energy and good chi, and I liked being around the people. But anyway, some people come walking in there, and dude, as soon as they walked in the door, you can smell their breath. As soon as they walked by, as soon as they walked in, and that is a bad sign. That is bad oral hygiene is a sign of so many bad things, because you can have like gastrointestinal problems going on, like you won't believe, and the indicator is bad breath. And they used to have these products for internal cleansing and stuff like that. Chlorella, I think, was one of them. Things where you can like kill kill body odor and like mouth odor from the inside out by taking a supplement. I found it pretty fascinating. But try to avoid getting in that position in the first place is what I have to say. And it's a sign of bad oral hygiene is a sign of many things. And that is like, that's a very underserved topic in my opinion. So much happens in the mouth and the gums and the teeth. It sets the foundation for like heart attacks and high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these other things.
Yeah.
No one even bats an eyelash at that. And that's, I mean, that's not necessarily a dietary deception, but I think it's a worthy thing to talk about, being given the title that we have today, because our teeth are involved with chewing, our mandibles are involved with ripping meat and stuff like that, and eating and chewing and swallowing food. So why not talk about it? So I just wanted to air that out a little bit. Always take care of your mouth. Keep it clean. You know, brush twice a day, floss your teeth every day. All that, you know, those dental caries they accumulate from having simple carbohydrates or carbohydrates that kind of linger on your teeth, which causes tooth decay.
Yeah.
That's why when kids are young, most of the time between like 0 and 18 years old is when you get the most amount of cavities, because it's like sugar, 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 and sweets. Like his daughter's being subjected to cereal today. Make sure you always keep your kids' mouths clean. I mean, I don't think that's an inobvious idea, but in the big picture, the enamel of the teeth gets worn out really fast when you just keep on hitting it with phosphoric acid and like fructose and simple sugars and carbohydrates, and it kind of lingers on your teeth. If you're going to have a carbohydrate, if you're going to eat like a bagel at any time of day, always rinse your mouth with warm water afterward. I started doing that as a little kid. Come back, fast forward all these years later, and luckily I've had like 2 cavities in my entire life. And the reason I was talking about the cavity thing is I think that is absolutely true. If you can avoid having cavities up until your early 20s, you're going to stay relatively cavity-free going forward, and your teeth are going to be relatively strong. So it's very important to keep your teeth clean and keep your mouth strong. Now, unless you have anything to add, Mark, let me know, because we're going to move on quick like a machine gun today. You good?
Excellent.
All right, great. Let's talk about another dietary deception. Which one would you like to start with? Because we were rattling some things off like crazy before the show started. What do you want to start with? There's so many things we chatted about.
6 small meals.
Let's start with 6.
I hate that.
Why do you hate 6 small meals a day, Mark? Why not 5 small meals a day then?
You know what? I don't think humans were ever eating 5 or 6 small meals a day, ever. And you don't even have to go back to Paleolithic man. I talked to my 90-year-old aunt because I want to know, right? Like even just 1-2 generations back, how'd you guys eat? They didn't eat 6 small meals. They didn't have all that food. They didn't have refrigeration. They didn't have everything at their hands, right? She was telling me we had a greenhouse where they had to grow stuff. We had chickens that laid eggs, but, you know, not an unlimited supply. We had a cow that we would butcher, especially right in the winter. They grew up in Ohio, and they were first-generation Italians. We made our own pasta. So it's not like they could just go to the fridge, grab something, throw it in the microwave, flip a light switch on, cook it up, eat it, package it up in my my Tupperware, take it to work, throw it in the microwave, eat it again, boil up some eggs, hard-boiled eggs, mix. They just didn't do that.
Yeah.
We just never had that. And that just never made sense to me. Not only did we never have it, but like that artificially elevates insulin and glucose all friggin' day long.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to go that way.
Yeah. And you know, the whole snack thing, like the supplement companies, especially the protein powder or meal replacement shake companies, have masterminded the marketing behind that whole 6 meal a day theory. And they claim back in historical times, 8,000 years ago, that our ancestors and before would just walk around the earth looking for stuff, and then they'd find berries and nuts and they'd shove them in their mouth. And a couple hours later, they'd find something else and they'd forage, and then they'd find berries and nuts, and they'd see a bison and they'd kill it, and then they'd eat a couple hunks of meat, and they would just move on, and all day they would graze all day. But now we're learning, oh wow, maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe they went like 5 or 6 days without eating at all.
Right.
Then they would shoot a moose or something, and then they would feast for like a whole day in a row, and then they'd run out of food, and they were good and full, and they would eat again for 3 or 4 days until they got another animal, and then they would eat again. So this whole grazing thing, save it for the friggin' animals. That's all I got to say. Let the cows graze, let the monkeys graze, or whoever grazes out there. in the pastures. Save it for the animals and come to realization. The realization is 6 meals a day is not a smart move. 5 meals a day is not a smart move. 2 meals a day is smart. 3 meals a day is smart, with nothing in between here. See these big gaps right here? So we got meal here. This goes down. That means blood sugar and insulin go down to baseline where they belong. We eat again, they come up. Then they go back down where they should be. They come back up. Last meal of the day right there, done by 7 o'clock. Down, and they keep going down. And they stay down while you sleep. And you wake up in the morning, keep them down. And that's a perfect segue into our next thing, which is working out a fasted state first thing in the morning. Unless you have something else to add, please don't let me cut you off.
No, this up and down is so accurate and exactly what insulin and glucose should be doing. Otherwise, this is how we develop insulin resistance, which leads to prediabetes and diabetes. Obviously, we develop this abdominal fat because we keep insulin at an elevated level all day long, and it's shuttling glucose into the liver. The liver can't, and the cells can't burn it as fast, or the receptors are not sensitive, and it gets stored as fat in the liver, and you develop fatty liver. And I mean, look, all you got to do is look around, and you can see that some of the current,
diet trends.
Yeah, dietary trends are completely friggin' wrong.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say about that.
All right. Mark said his piece. It's time to move on like a machine gun, like a machete. Okay. Let's talk about working out in a fasted state versus having a cup of yogurt before a workout, having a banana before a workout, sucking down a shake before a workout, or my favorite one, going to the gym with one of those bright purple or blue colored C4s in your shaker cup, rattling around, slamming one of those suckers down before your workout.
I saw this guy in the gym yesterday doing that, irritating me, and I wanted to smack it out of his hand and say, "You don't need that."
Oh my God,
chubby! This workout in here ain't doing anything for you when you're doing that first.
You know, I see that C4 stuff so much. It's so prominent. That's a popular energy drink. Maybe I shouldn't be name dropping it, but I'm just going to call it like it is. It's the truth. It's C4. It's blue. It's toxic. It's noxious. There was a guy in the locker room once. I literally saw him take one of those C4 containers, put like 2 or 3 scoops in a shaker cup, and like dust was in the air, and he's shaking it up. I walk into the flume of dust, and I started sneezing and gagging on it. It was almost like I walked into a big flume of secondhand smoke outside of a bar on Main Street in Park City. And he just went, and he slammed that thing down. I see him all the time shaking it up. I see people with protein powders in the locker room. 6 scoops, shaking it up after the workout, guzzling it down. First of all, anything that you cannot, let's talk about protein shakes. Literally protein shakes after a workout. That's madness. That's insanity. So people take 3 scoops of protein powder, 66 grams of protein, 0 carbs, 0 sugars, because there's aspartame, potassium, and artificial sweetener in there. So it's technically 0. But it tastes sweet, but it's a fake sweetener, formulated in laboratory, I might add. So you suck down 66 grams of protein after a workout. What is it going to do for you? That's the magic question. Mark, do you want to give them the answer, or should I give it to them?
Go ahead.
It's going to do this. You're gonna take in maybe 30 grams of 66 grams of protein powder in the form of a liquid after a shake. The rest of it is either going to be peed out of your system, it's going to be converted to carbohydrates and used for energy, or it's going to be stored as fats. But here's another thing that's going to happen. Your insulin level is going to go, and it's going to shoot up through the roof after your workout. Correct. You're all saying, oh yeah, you need it to feed your muscles after the workout. But guess what? That is a fallacy. After your workout is completed, especially if it's a high intensity one, especially if you're doing heavy weight banging, your growth hormone level is way up here, especially if you work out in a fasted state. Growth hormone is very high. Insulin is very low. Once you get done with your workout, growth hormone stays up here like this. 1 to 2 hours later, it starts to do this, and it comes back down. So what does that tell you? Protein shake goes in, growth hormone does this. Insulin takes it over. Yeah, insulin and growth hormone cannot be both high at the same time. So your insulin spikes, your growth hormone goes down. Technically, you're saying to yourself, look at me, I'm drinking my shirt. Protein shake, protein shake. Look at my muscles. But in reality, you're blunting the muscle growing potential that you have because you're spiking your insulin right after your workout. Growth hormone goes down, and you're hurting yourself. You're preventing yourself from getting jacked as much as you want to. Now, if you waited 1 to 2 hours, let that growth hormone stay elevated, you're in a complete muscle building phase. Then have your first meal. I wouldn't suggest doing a protein shake with aspartame and potassium, though. I can tell you that much right now. Anything to add, Mark?
Yeah, all the artificial sweeteners in those things are, one, they're super bad, neurodegenerative, still trick your brain into thinking it's getting a lot of glucose, and bad for the microbiome in the gut. Not only, right? So, but what you're saying, like, is so accurate that, you know, if you're going to go hit the gym and you want to get the most out of it, doing it in a fasted state with low insulin and get your growth hormone, you want to ride that out, man. Get the benefit from it.
Exactly. And, you know, it always boils down to hormones in the end.
Yeah.
Weight gain, weight loss, sexual function, brain function, inflammation, skin health, eye health, mouth health, heel health, foot health. It all comes down to hormones in the end. You always want your hormones to be working on perfect balance. And what we're telling you right now, all this information about the 6 meals versus 2 or 3, this is all the stuff that you need to know to balance your hormones perfectly. And if you go into a workout fasted, your insulin is already low. When you start lifting weights, you start doing sprints, the higher intensity you go, your growth hormone is going to spike. So Mark and I are doing a 48-hour fast in a couple days, tomorrow into Tuesday most likely. So I'm going to be working out both days. And on both days, I'm going to have a really massive spike in growth hormone, and I'm going to take full advantage of that by working out. And I don't know if my second workout is going to be as intense as my first one, but I guarantee you it's going to be a good solid hour to hour and a half workout, and I'm not going to pull any punches. I never do. And a reason why I do that is to get that extra growth hormone kick. And especially when you get, you know, up in our age, 40 plus, 45 plus, you definitely want to try to keep your growth hormone testosterone as high as possible. And there's so many natural ways to do it. It's not even funny. It's sickening. Best case scenario is you would never, ever have to get any kind of hormone replacement therapy if you play your cards right and do all the right things. And one of which is working out fasted, staying fast for a couple hours later, doing strategically longer fasts, block fasting, extended fasting every month or so along the way as well. All these things reset your body big time. And speaking of which, Mark, I want to talk a little bit more about that comment you made the other day on our master class about you said something about testosterone, or like the ovaries and the testicles get the most benefit from a 48-hour fast, and the organs go into atrophy slightly.
So yeah, the only organs in a male rodent that don't atrophy during a fast is the brain and the testicles.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Right. So that's what it is. We're trying to, 1, find food, and 2, be able to make sure we can reproduce. But I'd like to go back to elevate high level hormones. What you're saying, high growth hormone and high testosterone, right? Happens when you get good sleep, right? It happens. Mm-hmm. Those things happen when you get good sleep and when you have low cortisol, so you're not all stressed out. And so something to consider to get good sleep is to not mess with your circadian clock. And you can not the best way to not mess with it is to eat with it and live with it. Meaning, you know, eat when the sun comes up and be done when the sun goes down. And that's obviously a narrower window right now, but time restricted feeding is probably one of the best ways to get the most out of both of those by ensuring you sleep well. So when you mess with the clock by eating late, you know, systems that aren't normally working are working more than they should, working poorly at that, or not working at all. And so a really good example of the circadian that I thought of today, particularly with the digestive system, right? You don't wake up at 1 a.m. to go poop, because the whole digestive tract is shut down unless you eat late. And then it's just like sludging along and storing glucose as fat and just not working real well. But what else doesn't work real well? Sleep. You sleep poorly. So you don't get into REM sleep. Growth hormone doesn't go up. Your body's under a little bit of stress. Cortisol levels are high. Testosterone levels are going to be suppressed. It comes back to, you know, very basic things like when to eat and, you know, how much to eat.
Yeah. And a lot of the theory in the past, even medical societies and clinics like Mayo Clinic and CDC and International Institutes of Health and stuff were always like proponents of this calories in versus calories out. It doesn't matter when you eat, as long as you burn more calories than you consume. You could eat up until 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And I still see to this day diet plans out there that say that exact same thing. Like, oh, as long as you burn more than you consume, you're fine. Doesn't matter what time of day you're eating, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, and then there was the other school of thought where people used to say, stop eating carbs at 7, stop eating carbs by 6. And then there were people that said, stop eating by 7, stop eating by 6, stop eating by 9, don't eat past 8 o'clock. And that was all, there was like a bunch of those fear mongers going on as well. But no one ever really said why. They just said, stop eating now and stop eating then. But no one really came out and said the exact reason. But Mark just clarified it in a nutshell. Your organs work differently at 2 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to 2 a.m. in the morning, especially your pancreas. So during the day, your pancreas is in a high insulin production mode. Once 7 o'clock, literally 7 o'clock p.m. comes, that game changes big time. That's why it's not smart to eat, not only just not eat carbs past 7, but not eat anything past 7. Because protein still has effect on your glucose levels. And if you're going to eat a ton of fat, you're still going to ask your body to pump a lot of blood to your stomach to break down food, when your organs don't want to do that. They don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night. It's like you're fast asleep, 11 o'clock hits, and then someone barges in your house and shakes you and wakes you up and says, come on, I need you to go to work right now. Right now. Go ahead and put your clothes on. Just come to work. You're going to be like groggy. You're going to be stumbling. You're going to be falling over. You're not going to be able to perform 1/10 as good as you would at like 8 o'clock in the morning when you're designed to work.
Right.
So your organs are just like a human being. They work on the circadian rhythms. There's a little bit of a transition that occurs during daylight savings time, which is happening now, which I think is a farce anyway. I wish they'd stop doing it. Stupid. But your organs just work differently. What's that book called? The Circadian Code?
Circadian Code by Sash and Panda. It's amazing. Yeah. It's easy to understand. And he talks about, this system runs like clockwork in our body. And so eating late shifts the clock. Getting up late on the weekends and eating breakfast late shifts the clock. They call it, there's a term for it, but, staying up late on the weekends shifts the clock. And, there's a million ways we mess it up, but they're finding now, I think he said, I heard him speak last week at a conference, 140 diseases now identified with circadian clock shifting.
Wow.
And, so, I still get up the same time on the weekends early because I just wake up, right? And that's one indicator. That's actually one good indicator of whether your circadian clock is working well. Can you wake up without an alarm clock around the same time every day?
Yeah. I sometimes intend to sleep later on weekends, and not late, like 10, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock like some people do. I don't know how you can do that personally, but yeah, I intend to sleep later, and yet I still wake up rather early, 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m.
Yeah.
And I just kind of lay there, like my eyes open, then I close them, and then I like try to meditate myself back to sleep, and I can't. And I always say you can't pose your way out of everything for all those people that are like act like all yoga and namaste-ish out there that are like really secretly aggro as can be and like super horrible people, because I've dealt with lots of them. Well, it's kind of the same thing. You can't pose your way out of everything. Wear your life on your sleeve and be authentic. That's way more important to me than being two-faced and acting like everything's wonderful and you're not. Like I had a massive, dude, I had such a bad, I'm just going to go off book here for a second. I had a bad experience this morning at the gym. I crushed my workout, but a couple of friends of mine worked out with me, and I was so aggro this morning. It was unbelievable. I woke up, I was miserable. I don't know why, I was miserable. And I went in the gym and I was just complaining like the whole half of the workout. And my friend Sally was on my case about it. She's like, you have bad anxiety and you have this and that and blah, blah, blah. I said, Sally, it's called being real. It's called being authentic. I am human. I'm not a robot. I'm not like this militant, like 100% regimented guy that a lot of people think I am all the time. I said, I have weakness too. I said, sometimes I'm anxious. Sometimes I'm depressed. Sometimes I'm disgusted. I said, but you're always going to know exactly what I'm thinking and feeling when I walk into a room. I don't hide anything. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't pretend everything's wonderful. I said, you can't pose your way out of everything. And some people like to believe that, oh, everything is fine and just let it go and blah, blah. Believe me, I believe in surrender. I believe in hugging trees. I believe in picking up trash, honoring the earth, honoring your body, honoring your neighbor, all those things, all those spiritual things. I believe in them 100%. Trust me. But I am human too. And I have off days where I just don't feel quite there mentally. I feel depressed. I feel disgusted. I feel anxious. I feel like, I haven't achieved anything. I'm a loser. I can't look at myself in the mirror. And when I do, I say it. And then the next day I'm fine. And to me, that's therapeutic. I get it out of my system. And that's why I battled with an eating disorder for so many years, because I had it locked up inside. I had it hidden. I denied it. I was in denial all the time. And I no longer am. So,
my friend Joe Polish has a good saying, you're as sick as your secrets.
That's a good one. I like
right?
that.
So, I think it's, I'm the same way as you, Kevin. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, but you're going to know what you get. And, just the way it is. Life has its ups and downs.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, I'm gonna get off that soapbox. Let's move on. Let's move on down the rabbit hole a little farther. I put a post out. I did a Facebook Live yesterday, and I was talking about these hilarious stories when I was growing up. Where my grandfather used to walk into the room and ask me and my brother and my cousins if we had a bowel movement, and he used to say, "You guys move your bowels," and he had like this Italian draw in his accent, and it was hilarious. And we would laugh for hours about it. And we didn't really know what the heck it meant when we were the old kids.
Right.
We just thought it had something to do with testicles or something. But in reality, it was a bowel movement he was talking about. So Mark went and posted on my video, and he said, "Did you hear about the latest research on mice that were fed dietary fiber supplements, and they were proved as ineffective?" So that really piqued my interest, because a lot of people do include fiber supplements in their diet because they aren't eating enough of it. And what you're saying is that's mind-boggling to me, or it's mind-blowing actually. If these supplements are like not working, obviously we should always err to the side of whole foods instead of supplementation in the form of fiber.
Right.
But dig a little deeper into that for us, Mark. I'm curious to know.
So these were highly refined fibers that were put into processed foods. So, right, you're already starting with a crappy food. And then you just can't refine stuff, into something that doesn't have mouth taste or mouth feel and keep it with the same natural constituents, right? That's what happens with grain, right? They grind it and refine the hell out of it till it's no longer healthy. And so that was the same deal. I'm trying to find the study, which I'm not having good luck right now, but the outcomes, now this was a rodent study, but the outcomes on those rodents was worse. And I forget what they were measuring: insulin levels, blood glucose, colorectal cancer. I forget exactly what, but it was worse in those animals that were getting that than the ones that were eating the normal chow. So it just goes back to, you need to get whole foods that have everything in it, right? Because normal, big, chunky, hard to digest fiber goes through the gastrointestinal tract slower. It slows down absorption of glucose. It keeps insulin levels nice and mellow. It feeds the microbiome. You just can't trick the body, is the bottom line. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I always say in articles that I've written over the years, the 2,000 plus articles I've written, I always throw in these words somewhere in there, and I say you can't fool Mother Nature. That's the bottom line. You can't fool Mother Nature any way you look at it. You can't lie out of things. You can't fool Mother Nature with your body, with deceiving it with different supplements and things that you think are going to work and aren't. And everything always comes back to balance in the end, and that's what Mother Nature is about. And the Earth kind of just spins around on its axis, and it's all about balance. And you mentioned a key word that I also wanted to talk about, and that would be the microbiome. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's tease that out a little bit more. And I want to talk about prebiotics and probiotics, because I don't feel enough attention is paid to prebiotics, because the marketing strategies out there today, everything is loaded with probiotics. Here's a good probiotic. Eat this for probiotics. Here's a good probiotic supplement. Everyone's like probiotic happy. But in reality, probiotics are found in your stomach. They are the good bacteria. What you want to do is make sure those probiotics stay healthy. And the way they stay healthy is by consuming prebiotics. And then if you only eat probiotics and that's it, but your bacteria is jacked up, it's going to have like a neutral effect. It's going to be like canceled out. But Mark, I want you to go a little deeper about exactly what the microbiome is, and tease that out a little bit more for those at home that aren't completely sure, because it's a very hot topic right now. I feel that's one of the top 5 hot topics in the market of the world right now in health and fitness and food. And autophagy is another one, but we'll save that for another show. But I want to talk about the microbiome right now.
Yeah, we have 10 times more bacteria, funguses, viruses living in us and on us than actually cells that make us human.
That's amazing.
Right? So what does human mean? Does that mean your human cells? Or does that mean, all these other things that live in on us? It's like this mutual symbiotic relationship, right?
Yeah.
We used to think some bacteria, we used to think we had to kill the bacteria, but now we realize we have to live in harmony with the bacteria. So, in our gut, we have to, like Kevin's saying, we have to feed that right. And that bacteria lives on fiber from our diet. That's what it lives on. Doesn't really live on protein, doesn't really live on fat. It lives on fiber. That's what feeds that bacteria. So first off, you got to feed it well. And part of the prebiotic food that we eat that keep it, and the prebiotics are the food that the fiber eat as well. I'm sorry, the microbiome eat as well, prebiotics. And so some of those are garlic, onions, apple skins,
Leeks.
Leeks, exactly.
Leeks. Yeah, leeks, garlic, apples, raw wheat germ, asparagus is really good. Raw asparagus especially. Bananas, the forbidden fruit. Don't eat fruit because it's going to kill you. Bologna. Take bananas up, chop them up, strategically place them in your diet in 2 or 3 meals, and you'll be totally fine. Chicory root is really good too. Have you ever had chicory root?
Chicory root. So yeah, that's what feeds that. And so it's important to make sure, you know, you're getting that stuff in your diet. Now you can artificially use FOS, fructooligosaccharides. It's a supplement. You can use inulin. It's a supplement. Inulin comes from artichoke, wild
Jerusalem. Yeah,
Oh.
Jerusalem artichokes are also a good prebiotic, and they're also known as sunchokes for those of you that are like super foodie geeks out there, like myself.
Yeah,
just so you know.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Now, listen, that while that feeds the large intestine microbiome, if you have an imbalance of flora and you have small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, inulin will make you blow up, and you will feel like you got to fart, but you can't. And you'll feel like you got to burp, but you can't, because it's in the small intestine where bad bacteria is not supposed to be. How'd that get there, you ask? Good question.
You read my mind.
That gets there from using Tums. That happens. Antacid, Prilosec, all those acid blockers, H2 blockers. So the stomach acid is designed to digest protein, but also kill bacteria from, you know, our fingernails that we chew on, from pens and pencils we put in our mouth, from foods cooked in restaurants with other people handling it, from, you know, not washing the apple you're going to eat. And that acid in the stomach kills those bacteria and germs to keep it going from in the small intestine. But when you neutralize that acid with these things, because you have another problem, heartburn,
which is like heartburn or acid reflux.
Acid reflux caused by something else.
Yeah.
You are putting a Band-Aid on one symptom and you are creating a problem farther on down the line. And that's where prebiotics will be a bad. You'll know that you have SIBO largely if you get those symptoms. Same with probiotics, though. And let's talk about that, because probiotic strains that you buy aren't really things that stay in your intestine. They're transient. They're just moving through. So they don't really colonize on the intestinal wall like, you know, native bacteria that's in our gut. They may change the pH. They may clean up the playground from, you know, the bad bullies being in there. You know, they may just change the environment, and some of those bullies want to leave, the bad bacteria, allowing the good bacteria to colonize on the intestinal wall and build that health. But they rarely stay in there. And just like anything, you know, if you're taking this stuff forever, chronically, we adapt. And you're probably not even getting any benefit from it. So I think if you're going to do probiotics, it's good to mix up, you know, various strains in a supplement form where there's 8 or 10 different strains, fermented foods that are more natural, lactobacilli, kombucha, which has its own form of different bacteria and lactobacilli.
Speaking of which, this is one of my signature blends. I don't know if you can see the writing, Autumn Sun. I just finished it, like my fancy whiskey glass.
I noticed that.
It's the pocket glass. You can put it right here. This was filled with kombucha. It wasn't filled with scotch, just to let you all know. It's one of my homemade blends. And I'm a huge proponent of kombucha. We talk about it all the time. And that's right. It's like you can lay the foundation, but if you're already not doing so well with the gut microbiome as it is, any probiotics you take are really a moot point. And you should focus more on the prebiotics first, getting your bacteria working properly. And then once you get all that foundation laid down, then all the food you eat that is healthy is going to start getting broken down better, and your body's going to respond better with better energy levels, better muscle mass, muscle retention, strength levels. eye function, brain function, less inflammation, all these different things are going to come into balance. So that's called homeostasis, my friend. And that's what you should always try to strive for on a daily basis.
And you know what else brings balance to this? Now, this is again in rodent studies, but I have a feeling it's probably consistent in humans. We'll see very shortly. One of our pillars, when to eat, time-restricted feeding. So you narrow your window of feeding time between maybe 12 and 8 hours, really is probably the sweet spot. But in rodents, they see that that brings balance and diversity to the gut microbiome by not stimulating it all the time, because it has its own circadian rhythm as well, right? It does this all day long. And guess what? It's not very active at night. That's why you don't get up at 2 in the morning to poop.
That's true. And, you know, they always say that the stomach is the second brain. Whenever you say the word gut instinct or gut feeling, I have a bad gut feeling about this. Well, guess what? Follow that gut feeling, because it's absolutely accurate and true. And
there's more neurons in nerve cell bodies, which is the neuron of the nucleus of the nervous system, the neuron. There are more of those in the gut than there are in the brain.
Again, that's astonishing.
It's astonishing, man. It is so astonishing. Interestingly, too, I just read that one of the very first findings of Parkinson's disease is with the interaction of the gut microbiome and the vagus nerve. The cranial nerve 10 that goes into the everything, basically from here down, gets innervated by that parasympathetic nerve. And one of the very first imbalances is in the gut vagus nerve connection. So, and what's that do? That alters dopamine production and function in the brain, and you get Parkinson's disease. It's largely in the gut. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is. Well, you know, in our master class, we've been talking about it for weeks. It's like everything goes through the stomach. It's like that is the epicenter of everything. Nothing. Heart, it's important, but if your gut isn't working right, the heart's not going to work right. The brain's not going to work right. You're not going to be able to have erections as a man. You're not going to have sexual function as a woman. Nothing's going to work unless your stomach is right. Get right in your stomach. Get rid of the stomach fat and get right on the inside too. We can't stress that enough. That is so important. There's no other two ways around it. And I don't mean to sound brash about that, but I'm just being honest with you. And if I don't instill urgency in you, then who is? No one's going to. The life isn't all about sunshine and rainbows, as Rocky Balboa once said. It's about getting down and dirty and getting hardcore sometimes. And sometimes I just have to do that to get my point across.
I think, you know, I mean, I agree with you, because I've worked in primary care settings with family practice doctors for years and years, and the obviously sick, the obviously obese, the pre-diabetic, the diabetic, they never talk to them about what you just said. Like, get on it. You got to make these changes. Only you can do this. You got to change your diet, your lifestyle. They never talk about that. They just give them another metformin. We can raise your insulin 15 units this month. And the pre-diabetics, pat them on the back. Come on back when you're diabetic. We'll treat it then.
Yeah, it's just like you were saying. It's like the dike that has a leak in it. You know, I can't remember the cartoon, but it might have been a Bugs Bunny morning hour show or whatever when I was little. Yeah. And there was like this dike, and it like got really full and it started swelling, and then all like this little peephole comes out, water was squirting out. So the guy stuck his finger in the peephole, and then another one sprayed it, and he like stuck his finger in that one, and another one sprayed, and he stuck his toe in it, and he's like, before you know it, he has like all of his fingers and toes in the holes. And that's pretty much what you're doing. There's like this big dike of water, and it's just swelling with this wall. You just keep putting your fingers in all these leaks, and before you know it, you're gonna run out of fingers, and you're gonna run out of toes, and your tongue is only gonna be able to suppress one more hole, and then what? Then it's gonna explode or burst, and then you're in really bad shape.
Yep.
So all these things are just like, what's that?
That's what disease is, when it breaks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Plugged all the holes, but can't hold it back.
Yeah, you can only do it for so long. And I got another funny story I want to talk about. It's not really funny. It's actually sad. It's pathetic, actually. But I don't know if do you know the story about Kentucky Fried Chicken? Do you know the real story behind it?
That he started it when he was old?
That's McDonald's.
Tell me about this one.
Break rock. Well, you do know that Kentucky Fried Chicken used to be called Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now it's KFC.
Do you know the story behind that?
So they could trick people into thinking it's not fried.
It's worse, dude. This is a level of insanity that I can't even make this stuff up. So Kentucky Fried Chicken back in 2006 was forced to change their name to KFC because they did studies on the chicken and they found out that it was so genetically modified, so full of hormones and antibiotics, that it couldn't be legally called chicken anymore. So they said that's false advertising by you saying it's chicken and you need to change the name. So they bridged it. They came up with the acronym KFC. People blindly just knew that it was brand association. They knew it was Kentucky Fried Chicken in disguise. And then fast forward all these years later, and people still line up around a block for that stuff. It is so processed that they can't even legally call it chicken. What's wrong with society when that happens?
Wow.
That's a level of insanity that I can't even fathom reaching in my own personal life. I mean, that shows how processed the food is, and it's absolutely astonishing to me that that's even a thought pattern or a consideration. Yeah. I'm thankful that the government actually stepped in, which is shocking, and said, no, you can't call it chicken anymore because the chickens aren't even like chicken anymore. They're so genetically modified and so like, I don't know, they must have fed them like some crazy genetically modified grain and hormone and antibiotic them so bad that they mouth, deformed or something. I don't know. It reminds me of that movie Overlord, which I plan on seeing, except they did those experiments on humans. Of course, that's a movie, but.
Another interesting government step in, you don't see this anymore. Got milk? You don't see that anymore.
Right.
You know why?
Why?
They were saying that it made your bones stronger. It made you stronger. It was good for this, good for that. All false claims.
Wow.
And the Federal Trade Commission came in there and said, there are no studies that support this. You've got to quit. You can't say it anymore. That was just big dairy selling something that was completely false, and people fell for and drank more milk, and it was not. And so, yeah, you don't see those anymore because there was false advertising around all that BS as well. You just gotta, take your food and your diet into your own hands and not eat processed, crap.
Yeah, that is so true on so many levels. It's not even funny. And I also want to talk about there's one more myth I want to dispel, and that is the high protein diet. Let's talk about that. I want you to talk a bit about mTOR and kind of educate the people on that topic a little bit. But I am here to tell you that you do not need as much protein as you've been farmed to believe, pun intended. And you can totally survive easily on a plant-based or vegan diet too, by a mile. But I want Mark to take the floor on mTOR. Take it.
Now it depends. So mTOR is the protein, what insulin is the glucose, right? It's an enzyme system in the cell that gets upregulated by protein and turns on insulin-like growth factor. So, insulin-like growth factor has been implicated with numerous different cancers and shorter lifespan. But, I guess you have to choose your goals. Do you want healthy longevity, or do you want mass or performance? Because if your goal as an athlete is to get huge, you eat a lot of calories and a lot of protein, and that is your result. But you're also risking shortening your lifespan and potentially causing cancers. And so you have to choose. Now you can cycle if you're an athlete and upregulate your mTOR and get the growth. And when you get your point across wherever you need to be, your goal, you can take that down with fasting and a plant-based diet. But I was at a fasting conference last week at USC, fasting and longevity, and in mice, this mouse study National Institutes on Aging did and is pursuing is what happens to a lifespan and body composition if you take 100% of the protein away. And what did they substitute it with? Crap, sucrose, table sugar. And so it was 90% table sugar, sucrose, and 10% fat. And the interesting thing is, one, the mice lived longer, and they lost body fat, abdominal fat. They didn't lose muscle. They lost body fat. And so that has to do with that mTOR regulation, upregulation with protein, I'm sure. And so I agree with you, Kevin. I think we've been sold a bill of goods on needing all this protein when we don't. And, one other thing about that, when you look at healthy longevity and centenarians, they tend to get about 8 to 10% of their calories as protein. So not that much. And when you look at a Mediterranean diet, that's between 8 and 13% of the calories are from protein. Mediterranean diet's one of the most studied, long-term studied diets that's available out there. Not keto, not paleo. Those are short, right? We've only been looking at those for a few years. I'm talking long-term studies with people who live long, healthy lives as far as lower amounts of protein.
That's very interesting. And I think I would say 90% of the centenarians out there follow the exact diet you were talking about, either the Mediterranean diet or something closely resemblatory of it.
Yep.
And definitely more in the direction of plant-based. I mean, that's a fact right across the whole boards, that anything that derives from plant or seed is going to be 10 times more enzymatically active than like animal protein whatsoever. And not that I don't eat animal protein. I mean, I like eggs.
I do too.
Yeah, and I eat, I do 1 to 2 plant-based days a week. And then all the other times, I'm actually getting to a point now, Mark, I was going to tell you, where I'm thinking of doing, like, my first meal is always going to be plant-based. And then during the week, I'll probably have 5 out of the 7 meals, not even 5, probably 3 out of those 7 meals will be animal protein. And then I'm going to do 2 completely plant-based days. So I'm really starting to shift more toward the plant-based direction. Even in the days that I'm eating animal protein, I'm still going to specifically have plant-based meals in those days too. And it's just like, it's like it's like when you keep learning things that can help improve your health, biohacking, you can call it that if you want. You basically just want to keep doing it. And if you're feeling great and you're getting great results from it, why wouldn't you want to do it? If you can stay muscular and ripped and fit and in good shape and have good mobility and reverse aging process at the same time, my question is to all you people out there, why would you not want to do that? And if you can find an easy way to do it and it works well for you and it's easy for you and it's not uncomfortable and it doesn't cause dissociation with society and stuff and it doesn't hinder your relationships or anything else, why wouldn't you want to do that? Why would you rather go down the road of I want to eat all the animal protein I can and drink it late at night and have bowls of ice cream before bed and get this pill and metformin and get diabetes and live this horrible lifestyle down the road? I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to take option A, which I just described.
People choose their discomforts, right? Some people will choose like, oh my God, go without food or manage what I eat. That's too uncomfortable for me, because I think, and I always say this in our masterclass, we don't always eat because we're hungry.
That's
right?
true.
We eat for emotional reasons. We eat because we're angry. We eat because we're lonely. We eat because we're empty inside, figuratively. And so I think that's what drives a lot of chronic health problems, because you're right. Why wouldn't you do what you're mentioning?
Yeah. That's one problem that luckily I've never had, although I've had a massive eating disorder. I always have an eating disorder. It's like under control, but it's always there. It's like when you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. It's not like you can, let's go to a wedding and have a toast and I'll have a sip of champagne. I'll be good. Once you have a sip of champagne, it's on like Donkey Kong after that. It's bad. It's downhill. That's kind of the same way it is with an eating disorder, any kind of disorder or mental problem or habit that you have. It's not the drug. It's not the food. It's not the alcohol. It's the feeling of being under 100% control of the habit that you crave. And if you let it get out of control, it will take you down and it will destroy you and it'll bring you to your knees. And I've been down that road. I've been up from that road and I know how it works. So balance is always key in the end, and honoring your body is very important too. So I don't know. Good.
The animal protein, the whole food plant-based, right? That's one of our pillars in the master class, what to eat.
Yeah.
And it's that 80-20 sort of thing that in longevity studies and epidemiology studies with the centenarians, that's kind of the way they eat. They're not eating super high protein. They're not eating, they're eating good healthy fats, olive oils, things like that, but they're not eating keto or paleo or anything. Because, to some people, those styles of eating means like free range bacon, man.
Yeah.
3 meals a day.
Yeah.
So,
and again, we're not knocking the keto diet or the paleo diet. What we're trying to say and the point we're trying to get across is there's a time and place for everything. You got to figure out what works best for you. And the keto diet, it can be used very strategically in a certain demographic. People who are pre-diabetic, people who are diabetic, people who are 100 to 200 pounds overweight. That is like the diet to use for those people. And yes, it helps reduce inflammation and all these other things, but it helps with fast weight loss too. And it can balance out blood sugar levels better than anything else. There's no doubt about it. But the problem is it has only been around maybe 10 years or so. And there has been no long-term research done on it or what can happen to you 20 years down the road. And one of the things that Mark and I both know, and we've learned this recently too, it was reaffirmed to us at the 2 weeks ago at the fasting seminar we went to in Vegas. When you follow the same diet plan, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, if it's keto, if it's paleo, if it's any one of these diet plans out there, South Beach diet, you name it, your body's going to adapt to that diet plan and you're going to plateau. eventually. And you're going to, if you don't work out and you don't do the proper things to build muscle and stuff, you're going to become skinny fat. It's that simple. And you may end up getting miserable. You may end up getting anxious. You may have depression. You may have all these problems occur because you lost all this weight, but you're just not quite feeling right. And it's because your body adapts to it. There's ways that you can spark the system. And I think that's what we should end with today. Let's talk about that a little bit, Mark. I want to go a little more into detail about the feast and famine type thing. So go ahead and hit it.
So yeah, you know, whether you're keto or paleo, it's generally you're eating better than most people, and hopefully you're not eating 6 small meals, but you get your body into ketosis and you're maybe time restricting your feeding or intermittent fasting, and all that will create a improvement in everything. But like Kevin's saying, if you do this stuff over a long period of time and without variety or changing things up, the body adapts. That's what it does. It always finds its level of balance. So that's sort of the fast part of it. But you need to trick the body occasionally, and you need to feast, and you need to remind it that it's not starving, and you need to replenish maybe carbohydrates or more of something. But the variety is as important as the regimen and the routine. And so whether it's once a week, or one meal a week, or 1 week a quarter, perfect timing next week with Thanksgiving. There's going to be Thursday and Friday of probably feasting.
Yeah, totally.
But then you go back to your routine. As you always say, when you do that, that's the feast. That's not falling off the wagon. Falling off the wagon is like, I'm going back to that lifestyle.
Yes, exactly.
It's not the feast. The feast is 1 or 2 days, and then you go back to your lifestyle. Imagine, our predecessors, when they got the kill, they probably feasted for 2 days, man.
Yeah.
And then they probably went hungry again.
Yeah, most likely. And we should learn something from that whole deal right there.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is, don't beat yourself up if you have a bad meal somewhere. If you have pizza and beer and wings or something like that with your buddies that you haven't seen from high school in 20 years, don't wake up the next day and say, oh, I fell off the wagon. Oh, I get back to gym, work out, and then work out again and go right back to your healthy lifestyle and think you did yourself an injustice.
Yeah.
Chalk it up as a feast, move forward. You just reset your metabolism because your body's going from kind of like a minimal amount of calories, and then you boost your calories up to the roof, and your body has to compensate for that excess amount of food. So your metabolism jumps and it recalibrates and it resets, and then your metabolism stays hot for the next few days and up to a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And Mark said it perfectly. It's like, factor in that feast once a week or once every 2 weeks, or like 1 week every quarter, where you just go completely off of everything, eat around the clock if you want, and then get right back onto it again. You only fall off the wagon is if you go completely back to the old habit that was bad and that was causing destruction in your life. Yeah. So for me, to fast a couple of days is not falling off the wagon. Now, if I fast a couple of days and then I went back to eating 6 meals a day, small ones, and I micromanaged every calorie and morsel I ate and made sure to burn 1,600 calories a day and eat 1,400, and that's all I did for like 6 months in a row, and I locked myself in my apartment, that's falling off the wagon. That's like full-blown, you're back to where you were. Don't worry about it. Have your little feast. Be okay with it. It's resiliency that matters most, folks. What's going to happen the day after? Can you get back on the wagon quickly? The faster you get back on the wagon, the better off you're going to be. It's just like if you're doing high-intensity exercise for several months in a row, your object is to get your rest breaks down as short as possible if you're doing like interval training. And the shorter you get those rest breaks and recover, that's a sign of you're in really good shape. And when you make that happen, it's the resiliency factor that matters most. And that's what's going to make you a really fit son of a gun. And the same thing goes with your diet. It's going to make you fit through the medium of fasting and food too. So it's very similar, those two parallels, nutrition and diet and fitness. Just know that.
On our next hangout here, I'd like to talk about talk about the 4 different kinds of fast: time restricted feeding, intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting with water, and a fasting mimicking diet, because those are just so cool to talk about. Everybody's got a little different understanding of it, but I think, with our experience and education, we've got a very good explanation and understanding of it.
Awesome. I love the idea. And there you have it. There's our segue for our next show. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
This has been Train for Longevity podcast, episode number 8, Dietary Deceptions, with me and none other than Dr. Mark Testa. Mark, any closing words before I close us out here?
No, listen, be generous, be kind, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, sounds good. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Remember to go to trainforlongevity.com. Make sure to check out our masterclass, which is listed on there. Check out all the cool videos and information we have, and make sure you get some pine pollen as well. It's some miracle stuff. I love it. It's a superfood. Check it out. Integrate it into your time-restricted feeding windows. Yes, I said time-restricted feeding. I didn't let you get away. I'm just saying diet, because we are time restrictors. The window goes like this, and this is when we eat right here. Sweet spot. No pun intended. Till next time, this is K-Rail reporting live and Mark Testa. See you all on the flip side. Have a great Thanksgiving.